State of New Hampshire versus Jonathan Evans. This is document number 12CR2423. We are here today for a trial on the merits. The state is represented by Attorney John Webb. The accused is present and represented by Attorney Eric Wilson. Are we ready to go?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, State.
The state,
and I just asked for a sequestration order. I think there are no orders, but
the only other witness in the courtroom, Your Honor, is the alleged victim, who I would assert has a right to be here under the Victim Bill of Rights.
Okay.
State calls Officer Eric Hagland. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the penalties and pains of perjury?
I do.
Please have a seat. And please tell the judge your current occupation and how long you've been employed.
Police officer with the city of Concord for 2 years.
Okay. I want to draw your attention to May 21st, 2011, shortly after noon, about 12-14 hours. Again, May 21st, 2011. On that date and at that time, were you on duty for the Concord Police Department?
I was.
And where, if anywhere, were you dispatched at that time?
485 North State Street, Bedford Defense Supply.
And obviously in Concord, yes?
In Concord.
All right. And in general terms, what was the nature of the call?
It was a 911 hang-up call.
How long did it take you to get that?
I don't recall.
Generally?
A few minutes.
A few minutes, okay. When you arrived, just describe for the court what took place, you know, who was there, etc.
On arrival, immediately made contact with an individual identified as Brian Blackman, who was emotionally distraught.
Can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean when you say emotionally distraught?
He was pacing back and forth, seemed very heated, angry.
All right. What, if anything, did he report to you?
He stated that 5 individuals.
Objection. Hearsay.
The state would argue that it is excited utterance.
I would say it's not excited utterance. He was angry, but he was asked questions. Excited utterance is spontaneous statements, not questions by the officer responding to an investigation.
You want to sustain that, Judge?
If I could, Your Honor, just attempt to lay a different foundation.
Sure.
What if anything in this angry state did he say before you asked him anything? Anything?
I don't recall. He stated something before I asked him.
All right. What did you do at the store?
It's my job. And I don't want to hang up call. I'm not sure what's going on. Generally, upon arrival on those calls, I ask, what's happening? What's wrong?
All right. So, without saying what he said, who did you actually speak with?
Mr. Black.
All right. And without getting into specific statements, what types of information did he give you?
He was reporting, after speaking with them, that a theft made an objection. That's the statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't want to know what specifically he said. I just want to know what types of information he gave you.
Objection. Hearsay. It's the same response.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to a different area question.
All right. You did gather some information from him?
Yes.
All right. Who did you pass that information, without saying what it was, who did you pass that information on to?
My supervisor.
And who was that?
Sergeant Barry.
And how did you do that?
Via the telephone,
And when did you do that?
after speaking with Mr. Black.
How long did your conversation with Blackton take? Roughly.
Approximately 15 minutes.
So after that 15 minutes is when you talked to your supervisor, Barry?
Correct.
All right. You passed on to him the information you gathered.
Correct.
All right. After you took the statement, you passed on the information to Barry, where did you go?
Headquarters.
Concord headquarters.
Concord Police Department.
And who did you meet with there?
Sergeant Barry.
What, if anything, did he give you?
He gave me a vest.
And what did you do with that vest?
Logged with the evidence after taking photographs of it.
All right. And do you have that vest with you today?
I do.
I would ask that this exhibit be marked for identification. Yes or no? All right, so handing you a bag, a paper bag, states one for identification. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is it?
It's the bag that I sealed containing the vest.
Okay. That's the vest that you put into evidence that day, May 21st, 2011.
Yes.
All right. Permission to open the bag.
Sure.
Go ahead and unseal the bag, please. And you could remove the item. All right. Describe what you are holding up, please.
Leather vest?
And is that the vest that Barry gave you that day?
It was.
Or just every moment. All right, thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you. Officer Hagland, I have a number of, my name is Eric Wilson, nice to meet you, sir. I have a number of questions for you. One of the first things when you arrived on scene was to determine, once you received the report from Mr. Blackton, was to determine who the owner of the vest was, right?
Part of the investigation.
Right. Because there's an alleged theft of property, right?
Correct.
And in the course of your investigation, in the course of you discussing with Mr. Blackton, you were trying to determine or ascertain who the actual owner of the vest was, right?
Yes.
He wouldn't tell you, would he?
No.
Right. He said it was a friend of his.
Objection. Who's good for the end, or is it hearsay, wrong?
Well, then I'll ask that he stay on subpoena, because I think I may need to potentially impeach Mr. Blackton with Officer Hagland's testimony. It's fine. But your attempts to learn who the actual owner, you never did, right?
Correct.
That goes with it. Look at this. Prior to that day, have you ever seen this vest?
No.
I'm going to ask you about the vest. There's a number of police insignias, State Police, Manchester Police, Special Response Teams. All of these pinned upside down, right?
Yes.
And on the back, there was a Marine Corps Bulldog, and that was upside down. And the State Police insignia was upside down, right?
Correct.
You know why all those things were upside down?
No.
In the course of your investigation, did you learn that was to taunt the public?
Objection. Calls for hearsay.
I'm not sure. I'm going to overrule that.
You're not sure? Weren't you told that
attention also.
You don't remember? Do you have your report in front of you, sir?
I do.
Were you just reading it?
I was.
And I'd ask, he's reading this from his report.
Okay,
I'd ask you not to.
yeah, okay, turn it over. Well, it's there in front of you. If you need to, for refresh your memory with that at all, let council know and deal with it at that time. Okay.
And within a short period of time of your investigation, you responded back to Concord PD, right?
Correct.
Met Sergeant Barry?
Correct.
And the vest was at the Concord Police Department, right?
Correct.
So you get a report of a 911 call, you go do an investigation for a short period of time, and the vest is at the police station, right?
Correct.
When you looked around the store, everything was in order, nothing was thrown about or knocked over, right?
Correct.
You see a mannequin in the store?
I did.
The mannequin was not on the ground, it was standing up, right?
Correct.
Nothing was disheveled or no indication that there had been some type of altercation or struggle in that store, right?
Not that I can tell.
I have nothing further. Just a few, Your Honor, please.
In terms of the patches all being upside down, they were like that when you got it. You didn't turn them upside down, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then in terms of the investigation into who the owner was, you actually turned this investigation over to someone else in the Concord Police Department, right? You didn't do the follow-up investigation, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further, if you could put the vest back in the bag before you leave the stand. And then remain here if you would, but outside the door.
Thank you, Officer.
Now, if I could just have a moment to see if my second witness has shown up. That was one of the two. Your Honor.
Sir.
Neither my second or third witnesses, though they've been subpoenaed, are here, Your Honor, so I will proceed by calling Lieutenant Michael Maguire. You would remain standing when you get up to the stand, please. Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the penalties and pains of perjury. Yes, I do. Please have a seat. State your full name. Spell your last name, please.
My full name is Michael Maguire. My last name is spelled M-C-G-U-I-R-E.
And could you please state your current occupation?
I am a lieutenant with the Concord, New Hampshire Police Department.
How long have you been with Concord?
I will be starting my 26th year next month.
Tell the court, please, what role you had in the investigation into the events on May 21st, 2011 at Brian Blackton's store in Concord. Just general.
I was contacted by my deputy chief, John Dugal, who is now the current chief, and told I would be conducting a theft type investigation, doing some follow-up work regarding the incident initially handled by Officer Hagland and Sergeant Barry. So I conducted follow-up interviews, attempted to set up interviews, reviewed police reports, and spoke to people. I tried to identify and speak to people involved in the incident.
All right. And specifically, what steps did you take to attempt to identify what I'll call the lineage or the history or the ownership of the vest, which is now State's Exhibit 1 in this case?
The vest in question in this case was made known to me that it may have belonged to a person named Jeff Buskey. So all attempts were made to go back and track and find him and verify ownership and how the vest got from him to where it is currently. Through investigation, I was able to get a hold of Mr. Buskey. He was in Massachusetts working loss prevention for Kmart. I was able to go down and eventually interview him. He indicated to me that back in the mid-90s,
Without getting into the substance of the conversation, you interviewed everyone you could find in the sort of chain of people that handled this vest, is that right?
correct.
What, if any, evidence did you find indicating that Blackton stole the vest?
Objection. Objection. It's called for hearsay response. And foundation.
It does not call for hearsay because he found none. There are no statements. His answer was none, which means there are no statements.
I'll cover it on cross.
All right, thank you. So, Blackton was not charged with receiving stolen property.
Objection, relevance.
I would argue one of the issues in this case is ownership. They investigated the ownership of the vest, and Mr. Blackton was not charged with receiving stolen property.
Is that a statement by the prosecutor, or is it an objection? It's, one, it was a leading question. Two, it's not relevant. And there could be a myriad of reasons why somebody would not be charged with something, i.e. maybe a statute of limitations issue. Talk about the mid-90s.
I'm going to sustain that.
What, if any, conversation did you have with the alleged individuals involved in the taking of the vest, the alleged taking of the vest?
The only conversations I had were telephonically. That was with Tony Tyne and Mr. Gagliardi.
All right. And what other conversation, any, with others allegedly involved?
The only time I spoke to Mr. Evans was the day he came in to get his appearance ticket at the police department.
And the person you're referring to, Mr. Evans, is he here in the courtroom today?
Defendant seated.
May the record reflect that for that purpose, the witnesses identified the defendant.
Sure.
What attempts did you make to further the identification of these individuals with Mr. Blackton?
Based on the information I collected, I put together several photo lineups involving this incident and attempted to have him view the lineups and see if he could make an identification.
All right, and without going into conversation, how many of them, if any, could he identify through the photo array?
Objection. Without pointing at somebody and saying that's somebody I think is who it is hearsay. Non-verbal statement, but you point to something, it's clearly hearsay.
Your Honor, I would suggest that 801 D1C, prior identifications were admissible. They don't have to be coming from the person who did the identification. But the fact is, I just want to get.
I'm not allowed a question.
Thank you.
And just for the record, I know what he's attempting to do, but there are certain rules of evidence and court procedures that he's got to do. There's a number of witnesses. I think he's choosing to call 5 or 6 witnesses. There's probably 30 witnesses in discovery. He's elected not to call them. To circumvent, and the issue is prior identifications by a witness. He's not the witness that did an identification. One, and by way of offer of proof, the photo lineup that Mr. Blackman identified an individual was not the gentleman seated to my right. It was somebody else that, for some reason, was elected, state elected not to charge. So it's not relevant.
And now the council has testified about what I was trying to get out, which was only that.
He hasn't testified about it, but he has explained what his position is, and I'll hear your position.
Thank you, Your Honor. The only information I was attempting to get out was the fact that when he did the photo arrays, Mr. Blackman could not, in fact, pick out the defendant from a photo array.
I'm going to allow it.
That's, Lieutenant, in fact, correct. Mr. Blackman could not pick out the defendant from a photo array.
That is correct.
All right. You may inquire.
Lieutenant, your response to none, the question that was posed to you was, were you able to determine what evidence, you spoke with Jeff Husky down in Massachusetts, right?
Yes, I did.
He was the owner of the vest was issued to him, you learned in your investigation from the Road Dawgs when he was a member.
He was the original owner of the vest.
Based on the information that you learned, once he was no longer a member, that vest had to be returned to the Road Dawgs, right?
The information I learned was that the vest was put into storage with Michael Walchak, who was a roommate of...
I'm not asking about that. My particular question to you, sir, was when you spoke with Jeff Busky, he told you he was a member of the Road Dawgs in the 90s, right?
Original member, yes.
Okay. He, at some point, a couple of years later, was no longer a member of the Road Dawgs, right?
Objection, Your Honor. These things call for hearsay.
Well, they opened the door with it's a security of admissibility because his statement, none, is going to leave the court with a misleading impression.
Not what?
That there was no evidence that he learned from Jeff Busky that Blackton should be owning. What evidence do you have that Blackton was the owner of the vest from Jeff Busky? And he said there was no evidence. It could have been. In essence, you're left with the impression that Blackton could be the owner.
If I may, Your Honor, the question was what evidence was there that Mr. Blackton stole the vest? The answer was none. And if we're going to let this hearsay come in, then I would argue to the court that all the statements he learned about the vest should come in. If we're trying to prevent the court from getting a partial view based on bits and pieces of hearsay, which is what he's trying to do now, then it should all come in.
Well, I'll rephrase and direct it to the very point of none. Lieutenant, when you spoke with Busky, you'd asked him, had he ever permitted that vest to be given to Walchak or to Blackton, right?
Say that again?
This is your statement in the report. I asked Busky if he ever gave the vest to Walt. Did you ask Busky if he ever gave the vest to Walchak or Blackton?
Walchak, he said no, only that he gave it to him to put into storage.
And you had asked him whether he would have ever given permission for someone else to own that vest. His response was absolutely not, right?
Correct.
Okay. So when you said none earlier about ownership, in your discussions with Mr. Busky, he never permitted anyone else to take ownership of that vest. True?
You're confusing me with your question. The question I got was, did I have any evidence that the vest was stolen by Blackton? The answer is none. It was not stolen.
I know you want to get to a different area, but you got to listen to my question, if you will. We're talking, when the question was posed to you, it was regarding your going down to Massachusetts to talk to Jeff Busky, who was in loss prevention, right?
Correct.
Let's focus on that. You'd asked him because you knew he was issued that vest by the Road Dawgs. You learned that in your investigation even before you talked to him, right?
He bought the vest and was issued the colors.
He was issued the colors, the Road Dawg colors, right?
Yes.
You looked at the Road Dawgs bylaws, right?
Yes.
That's part of discovery. You knew in the course of your investigation, you were trying to determine who owned the colors, right?
The colors, there was a copy of the bylaws.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you'd asked Busky about whether he had ever transferred ownership to any other individual, he said absolutely not, right?
He told me he put the vest with Walchak to go into storage.
Didn't give it away, right? It was in storage.
It was in storage.
We learned that he and Walchak were roommates, right?
Correct.
Okay. And when the specific, I'm not making this absolutely not up, you heard those words from Busky, right?
Correct.
You never spoke with John Evans, other than just giving him his hand summons in May of this year, right?
That is correct.
I have nothing further.
Just a few, Your Honor. You did learn that Buskey gave the vest to Walczak.
Objection to the leading nature of the question, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule that because we've already voted this.
Yes, you did.
Okay. Counsel just asked you, you never spoke to John Evans. You did attempt to, correct?
Correct.
On more than one occasion?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, nothing further.
The word give, Lieutenant, when you just asked, did Buskey give the vest to Walczak? It was for safekeeping in a storage area, not to transfer ownership based on your investigation. True?
Jeff Buskey was living with Walczak. He moved out, left property with Walczak, and he agreed to put it into storage with Walczak.
So the
The
word,
vest was part of that.
the word give, Walczak was holding on to Buskey's personal items, a number of them, in addition to the vest. True?
Walczak told me that Buskey gave him the vest 2 to 3 years ago.
I'm not asking you about your conversation with Walczak, Lieutenant. Listen to my question carefully. I know you want to get far afield of this, but I'm asking you a very particular question regarding your conversation with Buskey. Buskey left personal items in a storage with Walczak when they were roommates. True?
My understanding is that when he moved out, he left property with Walczak. So this went into storage when they weren't roommates.
Right. And so the word that you said earlier, give, Buskey never told you he gave that vest away, did he?
I don't know how else to explain this.
Did Buskey ever tell you he gave the vest away?
He said he left the vest with Walczak for storage.
Nothing further.
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant.
Now, the state calls James Berry. And if you could please remain standing, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the penalties and pains of perjury?
I do.
Please have a seat. State your full name, spell your last name.
My name is James Berry. My last name is B-E-R-R-Y.
And what's your current occupation?
I'm a product rep for Riley's Law Enforcement Supply.
And prior to being so employed, what was your previous occupation?
I was a sergeant with the Concord Police Department.
How long?
I was with Concord for over 14 years. I was with the city of San Jose in California for 8 years.
Were you still with the Concord Police Department as of May 21st, 2011?
Yes, I was.
Drawing your attention to that date, May 21st, 2011, at approximately 12:15 hours, so shortly after noon. How did the incident at the Pepper Defense Supply store in Concord first come to your attention?
I heard that officers dispatched to that location over their police radio.
Okay. What, if any, conversation, and don't go into the substance of it yet, please. What, if any, conversation did you have with Officer Hagland about this incident? First of all, I should say, was he one of the responding officers?
Yes, he was.
Oh, okay. And what, if any, information, or did you have a conversation with him in the course of this investigation?
Yes, I did.
That day, I mean?
Yes.
Okay. How was this? On the phone or in person? What?
Initially, it was on the phone.
All right. And he gave you, what, if any, information did he give you when on the phone?
He told me that he had responded to the location on North State Street at It stated that the owner was reporting that
Objection.
Aside from the report, what type of information did he give you? Without telling us what information, what type of information?
he told me there was a theft in the store.
Objection. Here, second. Move to strike.
Still is hearsay.
Understand. Besides the report from Blagden, what if any specific, and don't tell us what it is, but did he give you another type of information that you were able to follow up with?
Yes.
All right. And without saying what it was, specifically, what type of information was that? What did you follow up that you learned from Hagland?
Followed up on a license plate.
Thank you. Now, how did you do that follow-up about a license plate?
I first ran the license plate through the spot system.
Okay. And after you did that, what did you do with respect to the license plate?
With the name that came up on the license plate, I tried to contact that person.
And while you were in the course of that investigation, what, if anything, happened? In other words, while you're trying to track this person down, who, if anyone, showed up at the police department?
The person that I was looking for that came back registered to the license plate showed up at the police department.
All right. Alone, or with someone else, or what?
With someone else.
Okay. Without going into specifics, what interactions did you have with these people that showed up?
I had an interview with them.
Okay. And in the course, and who, if anyone, showed up shortly thereafter? More people show up?
Yes.
Who showed up?
Two other gentlemen showed up.
Do you see one of those other gentlemen in the court today?
Yes, sir.
Could you point him out and describe who you're pointing out?
He's sitting at the defense table in a black suit, white shirt, tie.
May the record reflect the witness identify the defendant.
Shall?
So he showed up shortly after the first two. How much time are we talking about?
If I had to estimate, I don't know exact time, maybe 10 minutes. I'm not sure.
Estimation, you know, of it. What, if anything, did the defendant give you when he showed up?
I believe he was the one that handed me an item,
What item?
a black vest.
Permission to approach the witness with states one. I'm showing you a bag that's marked with states one for identification. And if you could look at what's in the bag, you can pull it out if you want to. And do you recognize what you just pulled out of the bag?
Yes, would be the vest or something identical to the vest that was handed to me that day.
All right. By the defendant.
Correct.
By the way, is there any doubt it was the defendant that handed you the vest?
Objection. First he says, I believe it was the defendant, and now
wrote it
with the
in the
leading...
books.
I'm sorry?
I wrote it in books.
And now with leading questions, he's trying to clear this up. So it's been asked and answered. I think there is doubt if he says, I believe it was the defendant.
Do you remember who gave you the vest? And let me just say this. You wrote a report in this matter.
Yes, I did.
Would reading the report refresh your memory about who gave you the vest?
Yes, sir.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing you a 3-page document. You recognize what that is?
That is right.
About the incident on May 21st, 2011.
Correct.
All right, now I'm going to draw your attention to the second page of that report, the second paragraph of that report. If you could read that paragraph, and when you're done, look up, please. To yourself, not out loud. Sir, does that refresh your memory about who handed you the vest?
Yes, it does.
Who handed you the vest?
The defendant did.
And that states Exhibit 1.
Correct.
All right. And what did he say to you when he handed you the vest?
You know, Dr. What refresh my memory?
May I approach the witness? Looking at this report again would refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
Does that refresh your memory?
Yes, it does.
All right. Now, did the defendant make a statement to you when he gave you the vest, or at any time in that interaction at the police department?
Yes, he explained why the patches were taped onto the vest and turned upside down.
What did he say?
He said that when they got the vest, the police patches and the dog on the back of the vest were taped on upside down.
All right. And after that initial conversation, what further interaction did you have with the defendant?
A short time after that, he came into an interview room and then talked to him about the incident.
All right. And during that verbal, now was he in custody?
No,
All right. During that verbal conversation
that's correct.
with the defendant,
Correct.
what explanation did he give you at that point regarding what happened at Blagden's store?
He had said that the Road Dawgs were on a run, and they had gotten information that one of their vests was either outside or at the store, and 4 of them went to find out why they had the vest up there. They were saying that there's a copyright and nobody should have the vest if they're not part of their organization.
What, if anything, did he tell you about specifically what happened at the store? Who took the vest? Who did that person give it to? Things of that nature.
I believe it was, he stated that Gary had taken the vest after having a confrontation with the store owner and handed him the vest.
Handed him the defendant?
The defendant the vest.
All right, and what did the defendant then do with the vest according to the defendant?
According to the defendant, he then left the store and went out to his bike.
So it was the defendant that took the vest out of the store according to the defendant?
According to the defendant.
All right. If I can just have a moment, Your Honor. Now, did the defendant give any indication about what the nature of this interaction was between Mr. Blagden and he and the others? Did you say how many there were, by the way?
There was 4.
That's what he said?
That's what he said.
Okay. Did he give any description to you about what the nature of the interaction was in terms of, for example, calm or heated or anything of that nature?
I believe he mentioned several times that there was a lot of swearing going on, mostly coming from the store owner, yelling at them to get out, things like that.
Okay. What, if any, that was an oral conversation, what, if any, written statement did the defendant provide you?
He did write out a statement.
You wrote out a statement?
Yes, he did.
And what did you do with the statement? Did he give it to you?
He did give it to me.
And what did you do with it?
I turned it over to Officer Hagland to be put to death.
All right. And have you, what did you bring with you today to the stand that you got from the evidence officer?
I have the original written statements.
Permission to approach the witness?
Okay.
If you could, first of all, I need only one of them marked. They're stapled together. Could you unstaple them? I'll show you. Can I approach one so I can see what's going on? Sure.
Just all statements.
Okay. You're shuffling through what was a stapled stack of documents. The one you now have in your hand is what?
This is the one from the defendant, John.
All right. May I mark this as State's Exhibit 2 for identification at this moment?
State's Exhibit 2 for identification of your statement.
All right, I'm showing you a 2-page document marked for identification, State's Exhibit 2. Can you recognize that?
Yes, this is the statement from that day. Yes,
That-
given by the defendant.
To you,
Yes.
about the incident.
Yes.
Move to strike the ID and enter this as a full exhibit. Your Honor.
This will be State's 2.
And if I haven't done it already, the state also moves to strike the identification of the vest and enter that as a full exhibit. No objection.
This will be State's 1.
What prompted this written statement? I mean, in other words, what, did you ask for it? Did he offer it? What?
After we had our verbal conversation, I did ask him to write a statement on it.
And that's what he did.
Yes, he did.
Mayor Pro Tem.
May-
Managed to misplace my error. All right, nothing further. You may inquire.
Sergeant Barry, how are you, sir?
Good.
Good, thanks. I have a number of questions for you. When you spoke with John initially in the lobby of the Concord Police Department, that was the early afternoon of 21st of May, right?
Correct.
In the course of you trying to determine who the license plate, you got a description of a motorcycle with a GRN on it. The plate is GRN, right? You were in the process of attempting to contact that individual when Gary Norton showed up at the Concord Police Department, right?
That's correct.
Gary Norton and Tony Tyne showed up there, right?
Correct.
You learned that Gary was a lieutenant with Bedford PD, right?
We need to start.
Okay. In the course of your discussions with him and Tony Tyne, John Evans showed up, right?
That's correct.
With another guy, right?
That's correct.
Another police officer, right?
Yes.
And they were off duty, right?
Yes.
And when John had the vest, John Evans had the vest in his hand, you don't have personal knowledge of how he got it, right?
No, we do.
Okay. He told you that he was handed the vest earlier by Gary Norton, right?
In our interview, we did not
Right.
log in.
Right. And in the course of the interview that you had with John, he told you and you learned that that the patches, that the interest really was the patches, not necessarily the vest. True?
Yes, that's what they were trying to recover.
And John Evans told you that he was of the belief that the patches belonged to the Road Dawgs motorcycle club, right?
Yes.
And that when they went into the store, there was a discussion with the owner of the store, right?
Yes.
John told you that the conversation.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is all hearsay. It's not being offered by a party opponent, which is required for it to come in once the defense statement.
Well, under the completeness doctrine, Your Honor, the state has just elicited just certain aspects of this conversation.
Don't allow the conversation.
And in the course of your conversation with Mr. Evans, he told you that he never was heated with anybody. It was really the store owner, Tyne, and Norton, right?
I believe that's correct. I believe he, at one point, he told me that he stepped in between the store owner and I believe it was Mr. Tyne.
Trying to calm it down.
Trying to calm it down.
Okay.
And get him out of the store.
Yeah. And John told you that in the course of when things got heated, that Gary Norton offered to cut the patches off the vest and give the vest back to the store owner, right?
Trying That was told me, I just can't remember out of the four from which told me that.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Yes, it's Gary is the one that, he told me that Gary said that he would cut the patches off the vest.
And
The accused told you that Gary said that Gary would cut the patches off.
let me restate it and clarify. When you were speaking with John Evans, John told you in the course of being in the store with the store owner, that Gary Norton said to the store owner, "I'll cut the patches off and just keep the vest," right?
Yes.
There was a discussion that the store owner was told he could be charged with receiving stolen property, right?
Yes.
And John Evans told you the reason that he left with the vest was because the store owner said, "Just keep the vest and keep the patches, just get out of my store."
That's what he told me, yes.
And so John told you when he left the store with the vest, he left the store with the vest because the store owner told him to take the vest and just leave.
I don't remember him saying that's why he left.
Okay.
That was said when he was at the store.
In essence, offering to cut the patches off, and he said, "No, just take them, take the vest and patches and get out of my store." In essence.
That's what they said, yes.
So in the course of you trying to determine who GRN was, I think you learned it through a motor vehicle record, but they showed up at Concord PD probably, what, 1 o'clock maybe?
I don't know what time
Okay.
I showed up.
From,
It was after we'd taken the initial call and I started to try to locate the owner of the vehicle.
So the initial call was out on North State Street, and with you get the plate number, you're trying to make contact with that owner of the motorcycle, and he actually comes in, and all four of them come into the station and give you the vest, right?
Not at the same time, but yes, all four entered the station.
Gary Norton and Tony Tyne came in, and then within a short period of time thereafter, John Evans and Maguire came in, right? And the vest was handed over to Concord PD, right?
Yes, it was.
And the vest has been in the custody of Concord Police Department for over a year, right?
Yes, it is.
From the 21st of May, 2011 to today. right?
Correct.
And in essence, John gave you the vest, said, "Well, here's the vest. You do an investigation." That's what you told him you would do, right?
Correct.
You wanted to determine who the owner of the vest was, right?
We wanted to see if there was a crime committed that day.
Right. You wanted to see, and you wanted to see who the owner of the vest was, right? I mean, if the vest belongs to the Road Dawgs, there's no crime, right?
Well, they weren't saying the vest belongs to them, they were saying that he.
Oh, no.
Objection, Your Honor. Defense is just asking for legal conclusions of the witness. The witness can testify about facts, but we don't need to get into his opinion about legal conclusions.
Well, the response prior to my question was we wanted to see if there was a crime committed, and I was just following up on that. The colors is the focus, the patches, right?
The Road Dawg patch,
Okay.
several other patches on the vest.
Okay. And you wanted to determine, well, in essence, the patches were on a vest you learned later, a guy named Buster, right?
Yes.
Didn't Blackton tell you it was Busky's vest?
Objection. This is all hearsay, way outside the scope of the completeness document.
I'll rephrase the question.
That's a stand.
Thank you. You wanted to determine who the vest was, right? Who belonged the vest or the colors?
Yes,
You interviewed Brian Blackton, right?
I did over the phone, yes.
Okay. In the course of your discussion with him over the phone, did you ask him whose vest it was?
I think I asked him how he got the vest.
Do you remember whether he told you he was the owner of the vest or whether he was just holding on to it for us?
Objection, Your Honor. This is all calls for hearsay.
Is Mr. Blackman going to testify?
Yes, he is, Your Honor, and can be asked about the case.
Well, I guess we could keep Sergeant Berry here until that.
I'll remember that question if Mr. Blackman's going to testify.
Blackton told you that he knew the vest had belonged to Busky and he was holding on to it, right?
He bought a storage unit through an auction, I believe he said, and the vest was in it. He knew who it belonged to, and he had it because he knew who it belonged to.
He told you he held on to it because he knew that Busky had been a former police officer in Sandburg, right?
Yes.
And that because he knew it was Busky's vest, he held on to it, right?
That to refresh my memory from
Sure.
the report.
Yeah, approach him.
Those are exact words.
Yes.
And you did police work for a long time, right, Sergeant?
Yes, currently,
You've investigated theft complaints, right? In the course of your career, right?
correct.
Do you ever have investigated theft complaint wherein the people suspected of stealing walk in with the property to the police department before?
Personally, no.
Nothing but.
You reread, Your Honor? Was the defendant, Mr. Evans, or any of the other individuals involved in this were they members of the Concord Police Department?
No, they
None of them. Was the Concord Police Department contacted in advance and given any report whatsoever that Hagland had stolen property?
Objection as to foundation in Sergeant Perry's personal knowledge.
I can ask, does he have any personal knowledge of anything?
Yes.
Do you have any personal knowledge of any call to the Concord Police Department report that there is stolen property in Hagland's store, stolen vest? Anybody call in advance, or was this all after the fact? As far as you know.
As far as I know, it's all left.
The defendant, on cross, it came out, admitted that the interactions between them all at Hagland's store was heated, not just on Hagland's part, but on their part as well, although he denies being angry himself. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it also came out on cross, is this correct, that they told, one of them at least, told Hagland he could be charged with receiving stolen property?
That's correct.
He was not, is that correct?
My knowledge, no, he was not.
Where did the defendant say they went first after the vest was taken? Not to Concord PD, correct?
Objection is the leading nature of these questions, right?
I can rephrase.
Rephrase.
Where, if anywhere, did they say they went first?
They went to finish the ride, which I don't remember the exact location. It was in, the end of the ride was in Concord. Finished the ride and then came over to the police department.
All right. They finished the ride, and the end of the ride was not at the Concord Police Department. Safe to say. Thank you. Nothing further.
You know they were doing a charity ride, right?
I believe that's what it is.
Didn't you learn that two finished the ride and two didn't finish the ride and went to Concord PD? That's why they showed up staggered?
I don't recall that.
Nonetheless, from the initial call, it was a very short period of time, less than an hour, that they were at Concord PD, right?
Approximately, again, I don't know the exact time, but that would be approximately an hour.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Senator.
Just all that in the day.
Yeah, please.
Any reason to keep Sergeant Berry?
I don't think so, Your Honor. I think
Right? Excuse me.